and the finding and the ring will one. It's possible the ring you must never find and the finding and the ring will one. It's possible the ring. Just time for a minute. You do not find. You do not know. What about in a minute? Lose 500. We do not stop riding. When you mean first Tetris. Just time in a minute. You do not find. Just keep through down in a minute. Lose 500. We do not stop riding.
Transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, deep in the bowels of Southwest Texas. It's the Joe Rooz Show. The show where we talk about anything and everything. Where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
All righty. Hey, folks. This is Joe Rooz, and it is great to be with you once again, transmitting live tonight from the Asylum Studios. From the Pimple on the backside of Texas, the beautiful city of Eagle Pass, and doing the very best that we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we could muster without all the bluster. Welcome to the Joe Rooz Show. All right, folks. Hey, it's Monday. This whole mess starts all over again today, folks. Monday, November the 10th, 2025. And it is 19:05 hours that this transmission is being sent out, transmitted all across the amber waves of fiber optic cable around the world. Right? All right. Well, man, I hope you guys had a good week and a good weekend. We had a lot going on this weekend here at the Asylum. Saturday was quite a busy and okay, so I used this example today talking to a friend of mine at the job. They asked me how my weekend was, and I said, well, it was busy but uneventful. Does that make any sense? You know, it's the easiest way I could describe it. Busy but uneventful. Spent all day Saturday just totally stripping apart the asylum here and just like deep cleaning the whole place, painting, all that stuff. Not that it really needed it, the painting anyway. The cleaning, yeah, I needed the cleaning. I was kind of lazy all week because I've been fighting this walking pneumonia that I seem to have here, and but I am feeling better than I did Saturday. All right, I'm not gonna say I'm feeling better than I did yesterday because I kind of feel the same, but at least since Saturday I'm feeling a lot better, and so we're just kind of trudging our way along here. But Saturday, like I said, just spent the whole weekend just doing my thing here at the asylum, cleaning up and getting ready for Sunday's show. Sunday we had a really interesting show for you, so I hope you're able to catch that also. And just forgive my voice. My voice is still kind of shaky. I'm still dealing with the cough. It comes and goes, but I do have some herbal tea here that I'm drinking. This stuff is pretty awesome. It's not the green tea that I usually do. This is an herbal tea. This stuff is pretty good. This is it's from Mexico. I mean, obviously I'm right here, so I get it. But so it's good stuff. I got this some herbal tea with some honey and some lime juice and all that stuff, and it's nice on the throat. I'll give it that. So I'm gonna be sipping this from time to time, and also have some water and stuff too. I'm trying to stay away from the coffee, because I think the coffee is making it worse. Why is coffee making it worse? Well, because the caffeine kind of is like it's a stimulant, so it irritates the airwaves, it makes you cough and all that stuff. And plus, I like to put milk in my coffee, so that doesn't exactly help with the congestion. But we're doing all right. We're getting there. Here we go. Sorry. I'm going to do the very best I can to mute the mic every time I have a cough coming on. So please just bear with me as we go through it. Now, also, Sunday's show I thought was really a very interesting subject that we covered. We talked about, it was our Sunday Bible study show. So if you haven't checked it out, you should, especially if you're interested in studying the dispensations, which we have been. And what we said yesterday was, of course, and repeated it from the last three shows we've done on this, that dispensations is just a period of time in which God deals with man in a certain way, predominantly about salvation. So we talked about that quite extensively in the first three shows, and then yesterday's show we talked about the dispensation of human government. We talked about how God initiated human government during that period of time to govern and rule, and we talked about the Noahic covenant. We also talked about the sociological development of the nations at the time, because remember we said that Noah had three sons, three boys, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and they were told to disperse, but they didn't. They were told to go out, to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the face of the earth, but they didn't. Instead, they set up shop over in the plain of Shinar, and they attempted to build a tower to reach the heavens, and that tower we know as the Tower of Babel. And they call it the Tower of Babel, Babylon eventually, but Babel because at that time, man had a unified language, and God confounded their language. He confused their language. That's why we have so many different languages in the world today. And one of the things we said yesterday was that sociology has never really come up with a clear-cut explanation as to why that is, but yet I find it in the Word of God and in my Bible. And that's what we talked about yesterday, and I thought it was quite an interesting discussion. It's a dangerous discussion to get into, to be quite honest with you, because you do talk about some what the world today would consider discriminatory topics. So you had to be kind of careful how you go about that. But the show, we don't hold anything back. We talk about what we have to talk about. We say what we have to say, and we keep things moving along in just that way. Now tonight, we have a guest scheduled. They have not yet arrived, so I'm not sure how far of a show we're going to have tonight if the guest doesn't show up, because quite honestly, I did not have time to really prepare anything else for today. The work schedule is just way too much, so this might just be a quick in and out. I don't know. We'll see. I hope he does check in, though, because this is really an interesting story, and it kind of hit a note with me when I read his bio and his profile prior to booking. And he's going to talk about some very interesting things, some things that kind of hit close to home for me. And that's why I really wanted to get him on the show. So hopefully he'll be able to check in here shortly. and we'll get it going. All right, but while we're waiting, let's cough again. And let's do the usual housekeeping stuff that we do. So, folks, tonight's show is brought to you, of course, as always, by podhome.fm. Now, Podhome, if you've been listening any lengthy period of time, you've heard me talk about them quite a bit. Podhome is our host audio platform. Podhome is fantastic, a fantastic platform. I love being part of the Podhome family. And from the day that we started up with them, this day we signed up with them, has been nothing but great. Every day there's some new improvement, there's some little tweak or adjustment to the platform, and it just makes it that much better. Right now they're using a different AI model to generate your chapters and titles and transcripts and show notes and all that great stuff. And I love the change. It changed from writing these things as a third person into a first person. So instead of tonight on the Joe Rooz show, Joe talked about such and such and such and such. Now tonight it's, today on the Joe Rooz show, I talked about this and I introduced this guest and this guest said this about that, so on and so forth. And then they also added the ability for to generate the resources that we mentioned during the show. So if you mention any websites or anything like that during the course of the show, they automatically add that into the show notes, which is fantastic. It saves so much time. You have no idea how much time that saves. So you need to check out Podhome because it really is the most modern, easy-to-use podcast host platform that's out there on the market. And I say that all the time, but it is true. It is absolutely true. I've used other platforms, varying degrees of difficulty in getting set up and using the features that they have. But Podhome has been the easiest, and it's the most modern in the sense that you get to use AI to publish your episodes, enhance your audio, automatically generate transcripts, chapters, titles, show notes. You can even, if you're that detailed with your show notes, you could actually go into the chapters and add chapter art for each one. You can have a different piece of art for each chapter. What's the art? The art is like, when you see the show start here, it has, my picture with the name of the show and all that stuff. That's called art. That's cover art. Cover art for our podcast art, whatever they want to call it. I know it as cover art. So you can generate those things, and you can actually use that and for each individual chapter, which is insane when you think about shows like ours where we do a 3-hour show and we talk about all these different things, and to come up with chapter art for each one is like a little crazy for us. So we don't do that, but the ability is there to do it, and you could do that if you like. And again, it's a great platform. And another great feature they have is broadcasting your podcast live. All right, so there are these modern podcast apps that are part of the Podcasting 2.0 platform. I'm never sure what to call it: ecosphere, platform. I'm never really sure. But you could broadcast your show across these modern podcast apps, and some of them you've heard me mention, like Podverse and Podcasts and Podcast Guru, Fountain.fm, TrueFans.fm, not OnlyFans. I got to keep saying that. TrueFans.fm. You broadcast your show a lot, live across those platforms. It's a great way to attract an audience, and plus, folks listening on those modern podcast apps, they can hook up their wallets to it, their crypto wallets, and they could send satoshis, which is just micropayments of Bitcoin. Those satoshis, they get applied to your account with that platform that they're listening on, and you can send boosts, and you can send all kinds of stuff. You can do all kinds of great things on these modern podcast apps, so you should really try them out. They're fantastic. I use quite a few of them from time to time. I like to use different ones and try them all out. Right now, my favorite is Podcast Guru. I just love using that platform because it's such a beautiful user interface. It's a beautiful platform to be on, to listen to your show on. You can play, it's very, very, very few, if any, bugs in it where like lag time or buffering or anything like that. Pretty solid app, and great. You can listen to the show live on that. You can listen to the audio later on. You can download it. So, and Podhome helps integrate you with all of those platforms, and they are fantastic to be on. And you could do, like I said, do it live. You could also use the HTML code that Podhome provides, and insert that HTML code into your website, and you get this really nice media player. It's great. I use it on my website. So right now, if you went to joerooz.com, you could listen to the show, the audio of it live right there through the website. That's a great little feature. Another great thing about Podhome is they actually give you a website, a fully interactive, usable website. It's great. You could either use their setup like that, or you could, if you have your own domain, you could bring your domain over to Podhome, and you could set it up on that as well, and use all the features that they offer. It is great. It's a great platform to be on, and it's in the world of podcast platforms, it is incredibly inexpensive. You get everything, all of that. And there's more to it also. I mean, don't misunderstand. I could probably sit here for at least 30 minutes talking about how great all these features are. Probably one of these days I should probably pull up their platform and just like walk you through it and all the great stuff they have. But it's a great platform. $15.99 a month. That's all it is. It's just $15.99 a month. I've been on other platforms. I started out on, I'm not going to say the names of the platforms. I'm not going to advertise for them, but I started out on some of the big name platforms, and man, between limitations on how many shows you could produce, between limitations on how many shows you can upload in a specific period of time, and for certain features to pay extra for the certain features, like enhancing the audio and things like that, you could easily pay up to 3 times as much as you're paying on Podhome. There was one particular platform that I was on for quite a while, and I enjoyed the platform. It was a good platform. Had a good reach and a lot of nice features and such. And one of the things that attracted me to it in the first place was the fact that you could broadcast your show live. They provided a web-based studio, all that great stuff. You could do all that stuff directly through them. And cough. And just one day, and I was paying a lot. I was paying almost $60 a month or so, close to that, for access to it all. And one day I logged in to do my live show. I was doing 2 shows a week at the time. I was doing a Sunday show and a Thursday show. And I logged into that platform and went to go live, and there was no live. They took it away. It wasn't available anymore. And that's kind of embarrassing when you're in preparation to do your live show, and you hit that live button. You go to hit the live button, and it's not there anymore. What do you do? So it was so then when Podhome came along, I jumped right on board with it. So you need to check out Podhome, podhome.fm, $15.99 a month. And if you sign up today, you get 30 days free to play with it. And I'm sure that you guys will absolutely love that. All right. Now, also, today's show is brought to you by TNE.energy. Folks, look, electricity is essential. I think we can all understand that. And TNE Energy makes it affordable and personal. More than 1 million customers across the U.S. trust TNE Energy to power their homes and earn free energy for referring their family, friends, coworkers, colleagues, whatever. All right, now just head over to TNE.energy. That's TNE.energy, and explore all of the options that are available for you today and for your home. Check them out, TNE.energy. All right. Also, please don't forget to head over to our website, joerooz.com. That's joerooz.com. It's right up there on your screen. And when you get there, head over to our contact section, open up that web form, and send us over a message. Let us know whatever's on your heart, whatever's on your mind, any questions, comments, cares, concerns that you have, any complaints. Don't leave the complaints. We don't want to hear them. But any questions, comments, cares, or concerns, or maybe you have a subject you'd like us to talk about, maybe a guest you have in mind or something like that. Send it over to us. Let us know what you're thinking. We really love to hear from you guys. And look, if you don't want to use the web form, I hate using web forms. But if you don't want to use the web form, you can always use the info@joerooz.com email address, or drop a comment somewhere down there at the bottom of your screen. You could do that very, very easily, and we look forward to getting those. Also, if you would, while you're on the website, take a look at our support page, please. I lost my train of thought there. Sorry. It's been a long day. Just take a look at the support page, and if you could help us out with a donation, we really appreciate that. The show basically, we do have sponsors, but those are in-kind sponsorships. So we do really depend on our donations to keep this whole mess of a show that we have going. So if you could help us out with a donation, really would appreciate that. Just visit the support page, and remember that this is a value for value show. All right, and all that simply means is that if you receive anything of value from what we're putting out, we're asking you return that value in the form of a donation, and that donation's your time, your talent, your treasure, whatever means you have. Don't put yourself into debt to support this show. All right. But if you can help us out, we would greatly, greatly appreciate that. My voice is fading. I don't know if you noticed that. But if you could help us out, we really could use the help. It's that's all I could say about it. We could really use the help. All right. Also, like I said, I hate pushing this, but we have a GoFundMe set up for this escrow issue that we're dealing with here at the asylum. So if you have the means to do that, you can always help us out with the GoFundMe. Just scan the QR code, click the link in the notes down below, and whatever you can contribute to that, we would greatly appreciate it. We do want to say thank you to, well, I said I wouldn't use their name because they asked me not to, but we did have a listener donate $300 to us through the GoFundMe for this escrow issue. So I appreciate that immensely. Thank you very, very much. So if you want to help us out, if you can help us out, that would be great. We are currently short $1,800 for this escrow change. So if you could help us, that would be great. Again, I hate asking, but all the donations that we do receive, just so you know, through the show also are getting funneled into the escrow issue. All right. Well, with all of that said, I am going to mute the mic for a second, cough, take a sip of tea, and then our guest is here waiting in the wings, and we'll bring him on here in 1 second. All right. Okie dokie, here we go. Now, tonight, we are going to be diving into probably one of the more fascinating and inspiring health journeys that you'll ever hear. Our guest tonight is Mark Burnett. Mark Burnett is not a doctor. He's not a scientist by training. Let me turn off the, there we go. Let's fix the echo. Sorry about that. He's not a scientist by training. He's a database programmer turned medical innovator who refused to accept the limits of conventional medicine. Mark was diagnosed with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Mark was told that there was no cure and little hope. But instead of giving up, he began researching, experimenting, and eventually discovering something extraordinary, a natural compound that not only slowed the symptoms, but began reversing measurable signs of both conditions. Now, today, he's not only living proof of what persistence can achieve, but also an advocate for natural approaches to brain health. He's working to bring hope, data, and real options to patients, caregivers, and doctors around the world. Mark, thank you for being on the show tonight. I really appreciate you getting here today.
I appreciate it, Joe. Sorry I was a little slow about getting on, but here I am, and we'll rock and roll.
No worry. Well, I can't say no worries. I was starting to worry a little bit, and I was like, man, you know what?
Then maybe that guy's Alzheimer's hasn't gone away.
No, you know what? That actually didn't even cross my mind, man. What crossed my mind was like, okay, I work a regular job, so
Right.
I was at work today, and I just had a Monday. Let's just put it that way. It was definitely a Monday. It was nonstop from the moment I got there. It was one minor catastrophe after another. And just so you know, my audience knows this already. I'm the director for facility maintenance and life safety at a nursing facility.
Okay.
And we do actually have a memory care unit. So some of the things we want to talk about today, I'm hoping that maybe I can bring back to my facility and talk to them about and share those things.
Yeah.
So the day was just crazy. I was all over the place today. I think over 15,000 steps, but by noon, it was one of those days. So I didn't have a chance to actually take my lunch break, because on my lunch break is when I actually sit down and build the show. And I really didn't have time to do that. I barely had time to send out the emails and set the studio up for today. So I usually have a backup show just in case the guest doesn't show up, but I wasn't able to do that today. So I didn't know what I was going to do going into the show if you didn't show up. But I am super glad you did. Now, one of the things that also, one of the reasons why I asked you to be on the show today was, as I mentioned in my contact with you, that this also hits a personal chord with me. A couple of years ago, my grandmother passed away, and she was diagnosed with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And it was surprising, to say the least. You know, we kind of knew the Parkinson's was coming in because we saw the signs of that, but the dementia, the memory loss, the Alzheimer's, that just seemed like it came like quick, like super fast.
It does.
And
Yeah.
Didn't realize that. But we'll get into all that in a second. Before we do anything, though, what I would like to do with my guests is when we bring them on, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to any of my shows, so you might have prepared yourself for this one because I ask every guest basically the same thing. What is something that most people don't know about you but should?
Well, they don't know that my background and how I got Parkinson's, and it's not genetic for me, although 15% of the population in the United States do carry the genetic markers to get Parkinson's, which means that's just they're slated to it. If family members have it, then it's very possible you might get that. Same with Alzheimer's. And I was born in Camp Lejeune. So in Camp Lejeune, as it's been all over Google, everybody drank the bad water. And unfortunately, being born on the base, my mom was in utero on that base. And so I was exposed to TCE, chemicals in the
Oh, wow.
water, right away. And back then, Betty Grable was the big thing. So, you didn't exactly breastfeed.
All right.
So, sort of a Marine thing, I guess, with their wives. So you gave your kid a bottle. Where did I get my bottle? From the hospital that was the most contaminated Navy hospital on the Marine barracks out there. And that was my first drink of life. And unfortunately, we stayed on that base for 2 more years before going to Cherry Point, and which was just up the road. And so I didn't know it at the time, but that's later on. Even I had one of my doctors say, "You were chemically contaminated, and that's why you have Parkinson's. That's
Oh,
where it
wow.
comes from."
Wow.
And so that's how I got that part.
Wow. That's some story. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Man, I don't even know what to tell. I mean, I've heard advertisements for like
sure.
lawsuits and stuff like that for Camp Lejeune, but to actually hear from somebody who's been affected by it directly and personally, it's another story altogether. And
Yeah.
it's
And
that's
I would add that what's interesting is 70% of the people that are being diagnosed they compared all the other military bases, and Camp Lejeune was 70% higher with Parkinson's than any other base the government tested.
wow, that's
So it's
insane.
huge.
That is insane.
It is insane. Yeah.
So what do you like to do to help you unwind at the end of the day?
Well, for me, it's been really. I don't know that I ever unwind. I focus on. I've been focusing a lot on trying to solve my issues with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, which are two different neurological diseases.
Correct.
And for me, being in the past a database programmer and being retired from that, um, I'm usually on the computer, the big computer here in front of me, big screen. And my unwinding is working on things and developing things. It keeps my mind sharp, and it's what I do. But I was fading in that area. I was forgetting things. I'd come in my room to work and forgot why I came in the room to work. The Alzheimer's part was bad. And the most frightening aspect of it for me was when I was driving home, 20 years, been going down the same back roads, doing all that, and I got lost. And I
Hmm.
didn't know how to get back home.
Oh, wow.
And being a man and part Marine, not signing up, but being my dad, remembering in my head, you just keep driving, right? You
There you go.
don't press the button, go Google, take me home.
Nope.
I didn't do that. So I drove around in circles and stuff until something seemed kind of familiar. I went down it, but it scared me to death. It was frightening to be at that level where I don't know how to get back home. And a moment ago, you were talking about your 5,000 or 10,000 steps or whatever like that. That's actually the latest recommendation for people with Alzheimer's, to walk 5,000 steps. It's supposed to help you and things like that. And I comically think about that. If I walked 5,000 steps back then, I'd be lost and wouldn't know how to get back home.
Oh, my
so,
goodness.
so it was a real goal to be involved in two of the worst neurological conditions, which you're familiar with,
Yes. Unfortunately, yeah.
that in the end don't result in any good situation. And my best friend, who drove a truck for the Army, he actually drove in Aberdeen, which they called Agent Orange in Aberdeen. And it became, yeah, exactly. And they were in the back of his truck, and he got Parkinson's with dementia with Lewy bodies. And I watched him pass away. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible for the caregivers and everything. And I hadn't come across this, possibility of using a supplement not really heard of, not really known. I had just gone to the doctors, gone to the neurologist, gone to two neurologists. They said, "Yeah, you got Parkinson's. Everything. Here's some money. Here's some medicine from the '60s, literally. We haven't improved it since then. And by the way, take this test for Alzheimer's." And I took the test, the beta amyloid 4240 test, which is the gold standard for that, and tested for that and came back positive.
Wow.
And I said, "Well, what do I do to get that better?" They said, "You don't get that better. There's no way to get that better. Once you go down, that's it. No one gets better." I Googled it. No one gets better. No one changes those scores. But after figuring out all this, I was actually able, in January of this year, I came across the report that was studied by scientists in the University of Japan, in which they were studying a plant, specifically a seed, and they cured all the mice that they studied it on from Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and dementia. And that was sort of my aha moment, to go, wow, that's crazy. And then when I read through the rest of the report, which is all scientific, one of those things you have to read 5 times, figure out what it meant, and look up many words. I realized that it had basically gotten rid of all the tangles and everything in the brain when they dissected the mice that were in there, and it had cleared them. Now, I didn't sign up for the dissection. I figured that wouldn't work out well.
Not right now.
Yeah, not yet. I'll put it down on my driver's card.
Listen, I have a morbid sense of humor, so sometimes I'll spew something out. So if it's inappropriate, just say so.
No, me too. So we're good. This is perfectly fine. I always tell people, said there, I cured Parkinson's. My hand is like this, everything, but I drive with this hand, so I have to have a Parkinson's stroke, in there. But these are devastating for me. I was falling down. I had the Alzheimer's. I was falling upstairs. I was falling downstairs. I cracked my head open seriously bad one time, really, really bad, from just not being able to control balance. I had tremors. All these things were there in January. And when I read about this, and I read about the scientists basically abandoning the project, not because they didn't cure the mice from everything, or they didn't actually even improve what they call control mice. They improved their memory by 20%, even though they were control mice, meaning this could be a preventive. They abandoned it because they couldn't figure out how to make it into a synthetic drug and sell it for $10,000 a month. And I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. So why not just take what the mice took? That was my thinking. And so that's what I did. I sourced it. I figured out how to make it. I read the reports. I understood that heat was a real problem. You couldn't heat this product. You couldn't do anything like that. So to mill it, which we had to mill it into like almost the consistency of a powder like you'd have with a protein shake. Okay. So that people with Parkinson's have trouble swallowing sometimes, so pills don't work well. I had to have something we would mix in with. Yeah. You have to have something that mix in with pudding or yogurt or something like that stays cold. So those were the key elements. I started taking it in January. I couldn't walk too far or without tripping. I was stage 3 Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's I was stage, I don't remember, which makes sense. And the Michael J. Fox Marathon was coming up in Washington, D.C. And I told my wife, I said, I want to go down there and give that a shot, And she goes, you're crazy. You're going to fall and break your neck, And I said, no, I don't think so. I've been taking this. I feel better. I feel stronger. Things are getting better. I'm not tripping. I haven't tripped at all lately. I had changed from some corrective heavy duty steel plated shoes because that's what I had to wear to not hurt myself. I dropped those for tennis shoes. I entered that race. I got all the way through it. And when I got done, they gave me a medal at the end. And I said, wow, this is amazing. And people around me that were Parkinson people that had like stage 1 were like, what'd you do? What'd you take? And I said, I've been taking this. And said, how can I get it? I said, well, I'm in retirement, but I guess I'll come out of retirement. And, going back to my days of a database programmer, you start with a blank screen and you make a database. That's how you work. And there's nothing on that screen. It's white. And you got to envision how you get from point A to point B. And I'll never forget my father. He said, he was a master sergeant in the Marine Corps at Camp Lejeune. He said, if the enemy's attacking you, you kill the enemy.
That's right.
It's just that simple. Those two combinations put me together to develop what I did and make me experiment on myself, become one of the next mice and start working on it. And that's how I developed the product. I had nurses come over that I knew. I had a pharmacist friend. I said, check this out. I had a bunch of nurses come over. They were like tasting it and checking it out and giving me ideas. And, I did everything necessary to try to fine tune it so that everybody could use it. And since I came out with the product, we didn't advertise a lot. We just went to a couple of forums. And 10% of my buyers turned out to be doctors themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Which astonished me. I kept seeing these DRs in front of their names, where to ship to. And I finally got to talk to one. He was a retired doctor with Parkinson's. And he said, hey, there's nothing else out there. If you can give people just 10% better improvement, that'd be huge. But, in me talking to you and looking at your medical tests and everything you've done, you've improved it incredible amount. So I'm taking it, and he called me back a couple months ago. He called me back and said that I lift weights, and normally I can only do like 3 reps and I'm done. That's all I can do. Now I can do 10.
Okay, fantastic.
And he goes, it's working. It's doing what it's supposed to do. And the key for me was now, being that database programmer, how do you figure out what it is that it's doing? Because they never said in the scientific experiments, they just dissected mice that worked. But what I found out in 2012, there was a system in the brain, which is called the glymphatic system, like lymphatic, but glymphatic. Okay. And what that system does that they just discovered in 2012 and really rediscovered in May of this year, another report came out, that this system clears the brain of all those things that get stuck in the brain, which cause Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia. So what has to happen is it has to get out of the body and then go into the bloodstream and then be broken down by the liver to be excreted from, your system. And that wasn't happening. And that became the key point. I understood, because they never used that test on the mice, that was what was happening. To prove that, I had taken the amyloid beta test, which is the amyloid beta 4240 test, which is the gold standard now, and multiple groups are taking amyloid.com. You got Lumipulse. There's all these tests now for Alzheimer's. I took that test like way before I started taking the product. The test that they said no one can reverse, Google it. If you Google it, it says it cannot be reversed at all, that test, in any way. I improved by 10%. That can't happen.
That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had to ask 10 doctors to do it, because all of them were like, well, if I put it through, your insurance company's going to reject it. I said, I don't care. I'll pay for it out of pocket. I want to know. If it's getting in my bloodstream, then it's getting out of my head. And it worked. So I've already gotten that test done. The one doctor I found, not my regular ones, I had to call all around and finally found one brave enough, to say, okay, I'll order. What the heck? What do we got to lose, right? And I said, we'll do that and do a liver panel test, because we want to make sure that the supplement isn't causing any problem with the liver or causing any enzymes to go up, things like that. And We got both those tests done. That 10% increase happened. So we're slated to do it again in about another 6 months to keep tracking it, because if I eventually beat it all together, then I've proven that. But I've sort of already reached that 10% of impossibility. And I'm getting information from people that are taking it, which is only a small set so far, that are also improving in both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. I don't have that many dementia patients yet, but or dementia people, I should say, using it. But it became far from exciting for me and a turnaround for me to something that affects so many people and so many caregivers, around the world, that I just had to pursue it. I had to come out of that retirement, and you know, I feel so invigorated by taking it and not having these problems. It's huge. And I really do want to get it into nursing homes and things like that. I'd like people to sign up for it, or at least their families to sign up for it and try it and use it. I think that's important, because there's nothing else in the doctor's neurologist, bag that they can pull out and say, here, take. It's
It's
very,
almost like
very limited.
yeah, it's almost like you have nothing else. You have nothing else to lose at this point. Let's try this. And
Exactly. Right.
now you tested this stuff on yourself for 6 months, right?
Yes.
What kind of changes did you really begin to notice at first?
Well, you notice when you get normal, you don't notice it. That's the first thing I could say.
That's a good way
I
to put it.
mean, you don't notice not falling, you don't notice not tripping. And one of the mistakes I guess I made was I didn't make a logbook. And I encourage everyone to make a logbook now. Matter of fact, we have a logbook up there that people can download from mybrainrestore.com, where my site is, and they can get it, and we say stick it on the refrigerator. Um, I started not tripping. I started not, having falls. Yeah, there you go. And I named the product, actually, literally for what it did for me. It restored my brain. And I think that one of the things that got me to start noticing was after about 2 months into taking it every day, was that these falls and things and other issues of memory started to work in the right direction. And then I started really taking notice.
Mhm.
And even though I had these corrective shoes on, I bought that had steel plates, like construction worker shoes, because they're heavy. So they would help me stop tripping, because the weight, my body would have to respond to the extra weight when I lifted it, which would kind of prevent me from tripping. And if I did, I hit the steel toe, which didn't hurt as much. And so the
Sure.
combination for me made sense. But then I shedded those and went to tennis shoes. After I did the Michael J. Fox run, I never put them back on again. I
Awesome.
wear tennis shoes and have like I'm a Nike spokesman or something. I mean, it really is weird to be normal. And so the first thing I tell people is don't make sure you're making a log every week, and you're checking off. If you're a 10, that's bad, but if you get your numbers down and you're using this, it's going to take you 6 months. Everyone's different, and if you have it worse than other people, it might take longer. Might take a year.
Mhm.
But you know the point is that system is working, it's functioning. And the only explanation for it is that dishwasher of the brain, as it's sometimes called by scientists, is functioning again. And there has been nothing else out there that does that. There are some drugs which you may be familiar with. They're NABs. They're basically used for cancer and things like
Mhm.
that. They're trying to use those for Parkinson's, especially, but it's a 3-year uh, thing. You have to take the drug for 3 years. It's an infusion, so you have to go in and get an infusion. The drug costs 100 grand during that time. You have to go to the infusions, and you have to have MRIs all the time. So you're talking about a $250,000 investment. And if your drug company decides, or your medical company decides to pick it up, your insurance or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, that wasn't really a good option. The side effects are huge. And I figured, why, you're exactly right. Why not try this first? Why not stick with it and see if it works?
Sure.
And for me, it did, and for others, it did. So we're getting ready to launch on Amazon. We should be on in the next couple of weeks at Amazon. We've already been approved and everything. So but you get your best deal at our website because we do have a discount code that works on the website.
Awesome.
And we try to get it out to people right away. We manufacture it here in the USA. The product comes in a jar, looks just like this. And I'll show it to you. Okay, and it's got a top. And it is a powder, which you mix in with yogurt. Again, like I said, applesauce, anything cold. Okay,
Mm.
smoothie, whatever you like. Switch it up. Don't take the same thing all day. Chocolate pudding, vanilla pudding the next day, strawberry. Mix it up because it doesn't matter what you put in it. You don't want to get bored taking it. That's the
True.
hard
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
You know,
Now,
and you got to stick with it.
now when I was going through your profile on Pod Matches, which is where we connected, just so people know, you talk about how scientists in Japan had this breakthrough once they milled the raw seed differently, and then you developed your own ultra chill mill. That's a
Yeah.
quote, right? So how is that different from the standard
Cold
process?
mill. Yeah, the standard is cold mill.
Okay.
Which most flour, things like that are done in a cold mill. And a cold mill is not really cold. Surprisingly enough, cold mills can get up to 120 degrees.
Yeah, that's kind of
So
hot.
I didn't really consider that very cold.
It's a little
In
balmy, as they would
Texas,
say.
it might be cold.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah. We're in a cold snap right now. It's only 89 degrees at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, there
No, I'm
you
kidding.
go.
It's
Exactly.
actually cold here tonight. It's like only 50 something degrees.
Yeah, I'm looking at 30 here. My bones are going to crack.
Yeah.
So, that didn't seem to fit the realm. And the scientists were quite clear that heat destroyed it. And this particular seed had been around for 2,000 years in Chinese medicine, but they always used it as a hot tea. They used it as a hot tonic to go to bed and get to sleep and things like that. Or
Okay.
they cooked it, they fried it. So no one ever noticed in all that amount of time the neurological effects that it had because they had essentially destroyed it. And I guess you would look at that in any medicine. If you heated it too high, you would destroy it or you would modify how it works. A
Yeah.
good example of that is my son is allergic to birch trees, which are similar to apples.
Mhm.
So he can't eat raw apples, but he can eat apple pie and he can drink apple cider and it doesn't bother him in any way, but they cook it. And so it modifies it. This is what was happening here, but in the wrong direction. And so what I had to really do is get that temperature of the mill down to about 50 degrees, and we have to keep it there. And we actually use laser type temperature readers that do it. And then we use another technique on top called burst milling, where literally we don't let the mill run at really, really high speed for a long time. It goes at 28,000 revolutions per minute, so it's
Oh,
fast.
yeah.
Um, but it can build up heat very, very quickly. So we'll burst it. We chill mill it by packing it so that basically it's like wrapping a air conditioner around a mill. And we're cooling it down and producing it. Harder to do, but what we're doing is keeping the oils and everything else that come out of that seed in their natural form. And we're not letting them in any way degrade. We also ship it and we put a best by date of it, our best use date of it, usually 3 months after people get it.
Okay.
And because we make it as close to possible as we can to when we ship. So sometimes we will not ship like on a Friday. We don't want to get it stuck in the weekend in the mail. We ship priority mail
Okay.
only, so we get everything out. We pay for that. Um, but we've done everything we can heat wise, but also we have to make sure people don't heat it themselves accidentally by putting it in tea, hot tea or something like that. So we pretty much, that's the key to doing it. And it's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I had used a lot of supplements that are recommended for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, but they didn't work. I mean, these are the natural, many substances out there. It's all sorts of them. Um, But the scientists also had suggested that those supplements are anti-inflammatory and do help when you're taking the My Brain Restore. When you're taking this, essentially the cutting down on the inflammation helps. So we do recommend you pick what you want, or they can buy it from our site. We use Swanson's, which is an inexpensive brand, it's been around since the 50s, and they make these other supplements that help support the ingredient. But by themselves, they didn't do nothing for me. I only got worse, taking them. This is the only thing that turned it around. And to beat Camp Lejeune, what it did to me, feel pretty good about that.
Well, you should. Man, this is a breakthrough, man. This is incredible stuff.
Absolutely. No.
And,
I mean, sometimes mouse experiments don't move into real life. I mean, that happens. In the medical, companies will, if 35% of the mice, get better, they make a drug out of it. They don't wait for 100. And what got me 100 across 3 neurological diseases seemed amazing, but that meant they had a common denominator. To me, in my database head, it's like, well, what is that? And that gets back to that glymphatic system being the common denominator. And it makes sense. It makes total sense because I wasn't dissected and I was able to get the blood work. That's where those amyloid plaques went to, because my amyloid plaque ratio changed, meaning there was more of that in my body and not stuck in my head. That's key. That turnaround was amazing.
So,
I could feel it, but I had to prove it.
Yeah, no, I got you. And you talk about supplements. There's a lot of distrust in the world of supplements. A lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
It's bad. How do you make sure that your product would stand apart and maintain its scientific integrity?
Sure. Well, essentially, we followed the experiments that were already done, number one. Number two, there are, of this particular fruit, which most people have never heard of, called Zizifa, is the name of the fruit. Now, we use one cultivator only. There are 100 different cultivators. So, it's like saying a Granny Smith apple will cure what I have. Let's just use that as an analogy. But however, there are 7,500 varieties of apples, which people don't realize there are that many. So if you eat a red delicious or a yellow delicious, that won't do you any good. This is the same thing. You have to use this one version. So we make sure we only source that one version. We do not source it in powdered version. We source it in raw version. In other words, we get the actual seeds because the seeds have a unique look to them and a unique way you look at them that I know how to spot exactly what we get. We then actually grow part of the batches. We take them. I turn them over to my wife because she has a green thumb. And my wife actually sets these examples of them growing to make sure that they sprout and come out. So we know that we have live seed that is in fact working and doing what it's supposed to do. So we do a lot of that. We again, being a database program, you can't screw up. If you screw up, everybody knows. You get hollered at. And when you're at the top of the food chain, like I was, running programmers, you really get hollered at. So for me, it was quality. And I take this stuff. So beyond that, I mean, this is something I'm going to take and not going to stop taking because I don't want this back. I don't want this to return. Nobody does. So for me, that's why we have a subscription system. It automatically fills for people. It automatically sends out. You can do that on Amazon too. Set up a subscription. And, the quality control is my doing. I oversee everything the way we do it. And I won't accept anything, done in China or other places and stuff like that, where they pre-powdered it or whatever. You have no clue what they're putting in it. You don't have an idea.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So it's really important that we buy the bulk dry seed, which is hard to obtain, and tariffs don't necessarily make it easy. Sure. But we deal with all that. And we get that in and we make sure it's milled right here in the United States, period. And we control that. We control the temperatures, how it's packed, how we do it, how we store it. And then when we deliver it to people, we make sure that it's freshly milled, essentially.
See, one of the things that
Um,
I would be concerned about, and I say this laughing, tongue in cheek kind of thing too, but in all seriousness, I've ordered supplements before, and I cannot tell you how many times it was left in my mailbox, and Texas, hello, uh,
yep,
it gets dropped off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm at work when it gets there.
yep.
And by the time I get home, it's in the metal mailbox, and everything in the container is no good.
Yeah, it's the outside burners. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's exactly what.
it's 110 degrees, 118 degrees, and they're leaving these bottles. And I know they don't know what's in the package. I understand that. I'm not
Yeah.
ignorant, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's incredibly frustrating. So I'd be concerned, if I was ordering this, that'll get left in my mailbox and get destroyed. Like, so how long? Like, this may be a silly question, but like in the packaging that comes, is it insulated to prevent damage or anything to that
It's
effect?
not insulated, although we've had some people ask, can we use a bigger package and can we ice pack it or something of that order? And we can do that depending on where they're at and things like that. That cost more additional to do that. And they usually have to call us right now because so far we haven't had too many people order it that way, but we've had people ask. And it's also why we don't ship out on Fridays, because we don't want it stuck in a warehouse in wherever
Sure.
sitting. We'd rather it keeps moving. We ship only priority mail. So we do get it there. But you are right. And it's not the only product out there. At Amazon, there's another product, which is a brain product, it doesn't do anything for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or anything like that. They do $500,000 of sales every single month. I've seen their numbers. It's insane. Okay. But they put right on there, get it out of the mailbox as soon as you can. Ask your neighbor to go pick it up, something of that order when it comes in, because theirs is also affected by heat.
Mhm.
And they have the same issue. And they don't take it back, obviously.
Well, yeah.
So we do supply the tracking information to the people and everything, but you're right, you're at work. If you can have a neighbor or something pick it out or take it out, or if you want us to ship it, to a PO box or something else where it'd stay in a cooler facility, that's another way to handle it. You can always get pretty inexpensively nowadays, different ways to use a mailbox or a mailbox service
Sure. Yeah.
and just have it put there or ship it. I have people shipping it to their neighbors,
Mm.
actually, that are retired. A lot of my people are older people. So they tend to be home. They just tend to be sometimes listless.
Right. No, I get you.
Oh yeah, that stuff in the mailbox.
I didn't think
But
about a PO box though, because I actually I have a PO box, so it's for the show. So that's interesting.
yeah,
That's a good idea. That's a very
no,
good
it's a
idea.
very good idea. Yeah, because it's
So let
inside a
me
facility.
let
Yeah,
me ask you this though. Now I'm thinking about my grandmother in the situation here. She had a very severe case of dementia,
yeah.
Parkinson's. Um, if she were still alive today, would it be too late for her to try this supplement? Or
A good question, and one I'm asked all the time, and the answer to that is I would definitely try it and definitely use it, because if it gets that um, system working, that dishwasher working, the one doctor who uses it and been able to go from 3 reps to 10 reps and continues to buy it and use it, he pointed out the brain is very good at repairing itself.
Mhm.
And he's, I don't know what I can say about him. I don't want to give out too, but he's a neurosurgeon. Is what he
Okay.
did. So he's very specialized in what he did before he retired. And he's like, if you can get things functional that way, I don't care what condition you're in or where you're at, this may improve and start reversing things. If anything else, if it makes it easier for the caregiver to take care of that person because they get a little bit better, or they remember something, or they remember who you are, who the family is, or they're not arguing with the mirror. My friend used to argue with the mirror for hours. He
You know,
didn't know who the person was in the mirror.
it's so
Yeah,
fun. Funny you mentioned that. There's actually I know someone like that who has dementia,
yeah,
and we have to keep the mirrors covered in their room because
exactly what I told that person to do.
they
Yeah, the
argue
caregiver.
with themselves, not realizing that they're arguing with themselves. You know,
Yeah, they're
it's
telling them to you get out of my house. That's what you
it's
say. Get out of my house. I'm going to beat you up. And
it's kind of it's when you walk in on something like that, it's really scary too. You know,
it was very
for
scary.
because you don't know what you're walking. Oh, you may hear the shouting out in the other room or out in the in the
Yep.
hallway going up to the room or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you hear shouting. You don't know what's going on. You go walk in there and there's a person standing at the mirror yelling at
Yeah.
himself because they don't recognize himself. I mean, what a horrible disease this is. I mean, it. Yeah, like I
Well,
said, I
and
see it every day, and I experienced it personally with my own family, and it's just a horrible, horrible disease. It truly is.
and doctors are pointing out now there's at least one doctor in one of the scientific studies, not related to the product necessarily, but said that, Parkinson's is at an epidemic level. It's almost a pandemic level.
It's
Um, we have
crazy.
so many people, it's increasing, the numbers are going bigger, but this is because people come in contact with the same chemical I came in contact, TCE. TCE is in brake cleaner fluid. It's in wig glue. It's in correction fluid you put on paper. That all contains TCE. And I can remember my dad. I remember the smell every time, even later when he was still a Marine and being younger, or I should say older at that time, and him picking up his uniform and put it in the car, and you'd smell this chemical,
Mm,
of the dry cleaning fluid. And then, we're breathing it. Okay.
yeah.
And everybody has come in contact with it, and it's long lasting. It was just banned from the United States in December of last year. Took them that long to ban it. Okay. But it's still plenty of cans in people's houses. There's plenty of it around, auto mechanics, and to prove the point of the dry cleaning industry, the number of people getting Parkinson's is at 500% higher than the normal population.
That's crazy.
It's outstandingly crazy. And in Camp Lejeune, unfortunately, an off-base upstream um, dry cleaner that cleaned a lot of uniforms for base, people, dumped it down the drain, and so it got into the aquifers there because that's all sandy soil there. They're near the beach.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course there was a, I think it was an NBC special on the lost children of Camp Lejeune, and it's up on my website. There's a link to it. It's on YouTube. And it talks about all these doctors, giving birth to birth defect babies and things like that. And the doctors actually took up got money from other doctors and nurses to put in to bury the children because there was no way to handle the volume that were dying there. And part of that was just all covered up. No one understood what was going on. And even when they did, they got quiet about it.
Mm,
And somehow I made it through that. But my mom was in her second and third trimester, was very sick. And back then they called what she had toxemia, which meant toxins of the blood.
right.
And they eventually pushed her to get a hysterectomy because I asked her why I don't have any brothers or sisters. And being a Marine wife, not much to hold anything back.
Yeah, right.
She said this, hey, this is what happened to me. And they told me to do that. Now, she knew nothing about the Camp Lejeune thing or why they had her have a hysterectomy, but she didn't need one. And if we just had moved, which we did eventually, away from it, I probably would have had a brother or a sister at this point.
Wow.
So I'm involved in the litigation in Camp Lejeune for myself and my mother.
Okay.
There are 409,000 litigants in the Camp Lejeune case.
Well, before we get into
So
that,
it's huge.
I did have a couple of questions about that I wanted to ask you. But before we get into that, I just want to ask about uh, uh, as far as the product goes. Is this something that could be taken as a preventative, or is this only after you've been diagnosed? So you can.
We actually have a preventative version. It's right there on our website. We do put on there preventative active. And actually, we're just going to change it to call it, kind of preventative because most people buy it for that reason. So
Okay.
there are people that, that 15% of the population that's predisposed to maybe getting it in their family that have already started taking it as a preventive. I do try to tell them you may not see much change or anything, but keep in mind it's a preventive. So, you're trying to stop it from forming. So you may not see the actual issue ever come up. But could it prevent maybe all three of these neurological diseases by keeping that system open? Obviously, that would be true, and that's why we did come out with that lower dose than the more active dose. The active dose, what we call 2x, is actually what I take every day and what most people order. But the mice also proved that, because scientists thought it could be a preventive too, because they also gave it to healthy mice. And when they gave it to healthy mice, the mice improved the maze running and another maze they do, I can explain in a minute, by 20%.
Hmm.
So in that way, it becomes, I won't say a smart drug, but a smart supplement, which has its own name. It starts to develop into something a little different that you can use as a preventive. One of the other experiments they do with these mice is they put them in like a aquarium and put a ladder somewhere in the middle and teach them how to get to that ladder fast, because mice don't like to drown. And
Oh, yeah, I don't think anybody would. So
neither do I.
maybe a fish.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a fish. So what they did was they gave them this, and they were able to get to that ladder 20% quicker than the control groups. So yes, the answer is yes to that.
Oh, awesome. Now, I know you already started mentioning about the litigation, and we talked about your mom and her exposure to it. So, where's the litigation stand at this point? What's next for it?
Sure. Well, no cases have gone to court yet. Okay. Most people don't know that. There is a way to take a government settlement that they have right now that the government came up with. None of the lawyers were involved in it. Basically, I would call it the low-hanging fruit take, where the government has basically said, with a bunch of different rules, if in the last 35 years you were on the base, then you get the chance to take this lower settlement. Now, I say lower settlement, but from what I understand, when they were releasing the numbers, one of the settlements was for $450,000, so not that low. But in Parkinson's, it's a tier 1 disease, meaning that it will have the highest settlement for sure. Because other things people have gotten as cancers and things like that, but sometimes those can be corrected by surgery or by medicines of that order. And Parkinson's, no, there's no cure for that. Maybe, right? So that litigation right now, there are to get into that there are bellwether cases, which they picked 5 Parkinson's cases, 5 other cases of different diseases, and they are battling that out. And they supposedly are going to wrap some of those up by the end of the year. How they're going to get there that fast, I have no clue. The problem has been is that all the jurisdiction is in North Carolina. So there's only 4 federal judges that have to see 409,000 cases.
Wow.
So what they've done is 2 Washington, D.C. law firms have now been put in charge of essentially mitigating those cases. And their job is to, once the bellwethers are done and amounts are awarded in court and settlements are reached, then they're going to take that, use those as their template, and then try to litigate out of court and get these done. So we could see resolutions in the beginning of next year being done by lawyers in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Well, let's.
But again, none have gone to court. Nobody's battled it out yet.
All right. Well,
and it's been a long time. A lot of people died.
Hopefully, it comes to a resolution.
Yeah, a lot of people died.
And I mean, no amount of money can take the place of a lost loved one. We understand that, but
no,
to help pay some of the bills that are associated with it, it's a nice thing.
It may sound brutal, but I think you know this brutal parts. The government also offered that if the patient died, that before they got to get them, then they give them an additional $100,000. I was like, gee, thanks, guys. You saved me before that. Why didn't you tell me it happened?
Yeah.
Now here's an interesting thing. I did a lot of research. I'm a research guy, so I got all the newspapers from the Camp Lejeune um, paper. There was official paper, and I got that all of them, and we put them into a database, and it's up at chemicalcasualties.com. I built that database. Remember, I'm a database coder, so we built that for people that could not prove they were at Camp Lejeune because a lot of times they were in the paper. It was a base paper. So they'd mention all the Marines winning marksmanship, or they'd mention them in football playing, or anything. Okay. So it gave them proof because you have to prove you're on base 30 days, non-consecutive, and you could apply. In doing so, I not only came across my own birth record or my own birth there in 1958, but in 1959, in reading in the paper, in the second week of 1959, the Camp Lejeune Globe announced that the birth rate ratio changed to having more women born than men in 1958, the same year I was born.
Hmm.
When you look that up, it is associated with chemical contamination. And no one noticed it, but the paper noticed it. It was so odd, they wrote about it. They didn't know why. But what it does, it changes the chromosomes of the male, causing a problem, and that upsets the normal ratio of more female being born than men.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm getting over. I have walking pneumonia. So,
Okay.
no, I do.
This isn't going to help.
No, I know. But I've been fighting this since last week, and I'm sorry for keep muting out the mic and coughing. I
That's all
apologize.
right. We'll get you some glyphenicin. We'll help make you help go through.
Oh, I'm feeling better. Believe me, I'm feeling better than I did yesterday, the day before yesterday. But I just want to apologize for that. So beyond the product itself, what do you hope that people take away from your story, especially those people that that have kind of lost hope in traditional medicine?
Well, I think a lot of people have lost hope in traditional medicine, in the respect that any three of those neurological diseases you go in with, and just like my friend dying, he was on a very expensive drug, and it just made his condition worse, and its side effects were huge. And of course, you get that one where the last one is, and it may kill you. It's on every ad of those kind of drugs. I think that you lose a lot of hope, and I think that I hope that this supplies hope. I hope that it goes beyond that. I hope that this product does what it did for me and the other people that have started to take it, that it works. And again, if it improves people 10% or gives them 50% more improvement, or they get much better across the board, I'll feel really good about that. But I already feel good enough about it to make the product because I realized what it did for me. I'm patient zero. And it's amazing. And my neurologist was even like, wow, you don't have any more tremors. Keep taking whatever you're taking. That was their answer. I'm not taking their drug. They gave me the old L-Dopa. And I'm like, how long does this last? And they said, about 5 years. We call it the honeymoon effect. What they actually called me. I'm like, what does that mean? I mean, I know what I think it means.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it stops working in 5 years, or you get freeze, and you get locked face or locked body, things like that start to happen, and so it becomes more of a problem than a help. Or you can go with electrodes in the brain, which is also $100,000 thing, and that'll stop the tremors, but it doesn't treat the problem. And I think what I'd like to get out of this is that I can't, by the FDA, say it treats these problems, but I can say it fixed the mice and it fixed me, and everyone else has to discover it and start using it. And we'll know by how many stars we get on Amazon and how many reviews as it starts going. And we'll definitely do more podcasts and everything. We will put out information. My journey is going to be a book that we're going to put out. People can go, and I'll give you a little secret. They can go to the My Brain Restore site. They can go to the FAQ, and they can click on free PDFs, and they can actually download the book. So if you go to FAQ, free PDFs, And then from there, you will see the, I don't know if you clicked on, yeah, the one on the left. So the one on the left there has multiple ways you can get it as an ebook or a PDF. You can download it. So when
Okay.
you click on that, if you click on that orange button there, it'll open up and ask you, how do you want it formatted? There you go. And then
Alright.
you can just download it, whichever way you'd like it. And you can read my journey. That's all my journey. It shows my father and me and Camp Lejeune. It shows my Navy birth certificate, all my medical records. I put everything up there. I'm totally transparent, 100%. And
Alright.
we will be coming out with a new version, and you know, we're already got it in the works, 2026 version of that. We came out with that one and quickly came out with the 2026 because I just got that new blood work done October 13th. Okay, that should be bad luck for me. It was really, really good luck. Uh,
Was it a
uh,
Friday? I don't remember if it was a
I
Friday.
don't know. I just put 13 down as a bad luck. Um, so it essentially was, you know, I had to add to the book, but we will update the My Journey section all the time. So, you know, anytime we get new information or I can put new things up there, people can come back and read what's new. We'll put a date in there and say it, or they can just go to the My Journey and read through that too. That if you scan through that real quick, you will see pictures of, the actual medical records again that show where we're at. And I think that this is going to work for people. You know, I really do. I wouldn't be doing all this and pouring my retirement money into it. Um, and you know, I've even gotten some investors interested and stuff like that. But I'm picky. I don't want investors getting involved and changing. Actually, right there, the one you just had um, was the SYN1 test, which shows what Parkinson's looks like. That's my birth certificate right there. So that one is what Parkinson's look like. You're looking at it. That's me, and that's the folded tendril,
Wow.
and that's done by a biopsy. Which I'm gonna tell you something. You'll like this because this is my Marine part coming in. The doctors would not order that test. They had never heard of it, and I said it's brand new. It's got like 100% score. You know, ability to predict. You know, or show literally the Parkinson's in the cells, and they wouldn't order it. I couldn't get my skin doctor to order it because I've never heard of that. Okay, so I called the lab and I said, "Would you order this for me?" It's like, "You're a patient." I said, "Yeah, but can you don't isn't the kit free and you just send it to the doctor and then they charge you when they send it back?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "Send it to them. Do it." You know, my Marine attitude came
Yeah,
out really
yeah.
fast. Okay, I ain't taking no for an answer. After a while, the lady on the other end's like, "Where do you want me to send it?" I said, "Here's
It's
the
a
address.
but
Send
it's
it to the
funny though
doctor."
that
And
it's
then
funny that
literally
it's
it
that.
showed up. And they're like, "What is this, Mr. Burnett?" And I said, "It's the test I want. You wouldn't give it to me." And so I went down and saw him. I got the neurologist on the phone. Big argument ensued. Finally, they're like, "I'll just let him take the test." Okay. Came back 100% positive.
Wow. It's
Showed
just
that.
sad.
And then the doctor said then afterwards, which kills me, the neurologist said, "I think we'll use this test now in the future." Thanks.
But what I was gonna say was it's just sad the fact that you had to make the phone call to do that,
It's horrible.
you
It's
know?
horrible. But
It's
you know, when I talked to one of my doctors, I said, "Why do you not know about this?" He goes, "Those journals come out every day. I don't have time to read every one. I got two more patients in the room. You know, I got 7 minutes with you.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's
You
crazy.
know, it's all I can do." So you really have to look outside the box, you know, and it's not, I agree with you. A lot of supplements are regurgitated combinations of things that have been out there forever and they're terrible. But this product never been out there as a supplement in this way. It's never been done with this technique or anything. Most time it's just cooked or used as a hot tea. And then again, if it's already milled, you don't know what you're getting. So quality control is extremely important.
It's just the
Um,
integrity of the product too. I
so
think that's important.
yeah, yeah, no, it is. And you know, it is horrible that I had to argue with the doctors that way. You know, I mean, but I couldn't accept the ultimate fate which everybody has with this, and what the doctors basically tell you, and you're aware of, my friend died of it, and he was taking some of the strongest drugs out there and just making it worse. It sometimes strange how a simple thing works, but
Yeah.
sometimes it does. And this is one of those moments where it actually wasn't simple. What they did for the mice and the experiments they did were quite, extensive and very well researched. And I was able to make that leap from mice to men, and not the book, but
Of mice and men. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, of mice and men. But it's I had to experiment on myself first. I didn't offer it to anybody. To me, it was important to establish that it worked and I could show it could work. And also in that same My Journey, you have my liver functions there that are in October, that were just taken. They're all clean. Matter of fact, they're perfect, all in the green, meaning we're not getting any problems with the liver or any issues, which does happen with some supplements. I mean, there are supplements that can cause liver function to go through the roof, and that's not good for you either.
No, of course not.
Yeah, red yeast rice, turmeric, things like this in high doses can take your liver out. So it was important for me not just to say it worked, it's not messing anything up either, because we know that the liver is the last point of where these amyloid beta plaques and stuff head off to get cleaned.
Mhm.
So the fact that it wasn't bothering it was a good thing. And weirdly enough, I had always had high liver functions prior to this, but I won't say that this affect the liver in any way. There's no proof of that.
Interesting. Now, okay, Mark. So, who is somebody that you respect right now, and what are they doing that inspires you?
Mm. Well, I wouldn't say it's someone that I respect right now, but in my past, I had an interesting opportunity to meet Norman Vincent Peale.
Really?
Now, many people may not be familiar with him, but he wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking.
Hmm.
And he was a guy who went out there and gave speeches and things. He's very well known back when I was young. And I think I was in my 20s at that time.
Oh,
And
yeah, no, I know who he is. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I met him literally backstage. We took him to the event. My boss knew him and said, we're going to take Norman down here and all this stuff. And when I sat in the audience, he actually went and looked out at the audience and he said, I want everybody in the audience to try to stand up for me. And half the people stood up and half the other people sat down, just like confused by what he just said. And he goes, no, 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 no. Everybody try to stand up. And a few other people stood up. Other people were confused and they kept it up. And he goes, yes, because there is no such word as try. You're either doing it or you're not.
Mhm.
And to me, that stuck with me when I was 20 years old and never left. And I said, this is not something I'm going to sit on my butt about. I'm going to find a way to deal with it better. And you got to not try, you got to do it. And that's what I did. And I never forgot those words.
Wow, that's amazing. That's an incredible story, and and it's true. I remember I read about that. Him he because that's not the only time he ever did that. He did it several
Yes,
others.
he did it. Yes,
Do
it
that.
was.
That
Yeah,
was kind of his shtick. It's part of
yeah,
his.
yeah.
Shtick.
It was just normal.
And I don't say shtick as disrespectful. I mean, it's just
No, no, no.
it's his shtick. So, so I'm familiar with that, and it's great. And it also reminded me, and I'm sorry, but no, I don't know, Yoda.
Yeah.
Yoda
Yes.
said that in Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, he did.
He
Yeah.
said that to Luke. He said, "No,
Yeah.
there is no try, only do." Do? No, actually,
And he said it exactly that way.
do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah, and Luke went on to be pretty good.
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
So
So,
yeah, it's
fantastic.
that, and it's also for me, once I got to this point and started marketing it and started talking to people, the desperation of people, because I open my phones. My phones are open, 7 days a week. We don't use AI to answer a phone or anything like that. It rings through and either I get it or someone else picks it up. And we call people back. And in talking to people, I get the same thing, especially with caregivers, they're beside themselves. Um, and I've talked to hospice nurses, and it's frightening in talking to hospice nurses that I've talked to saying, you know, I had a bad day today. I'm like, well, why? Well, one of the caregivers said, is there anything you can give my partner here so that he doesn't have to go through this and suffer anymore?
Mm.
And it's like, wow, that's horrible that they're thinking, you know, I got to let this person go. Is there anything you do? Of course, the hospice person's like, no, no, nothing I can do. No, no, it's not my job.
Right.
I don't get involved in any of that. But that's a level of desperation that's so far out there. You know, I look at all the celebrities, you know, that have gotten dementia. You know, we know Bruce Willis,
Yeah.
bad
Yeah. I
dementia
was
in a different house.
it's celebrities. That's
Um,
the first one that came to my mind.
yeah, absolutely. And of course, Michael J. Fox at a point
Yeah.
now where he's wheelchair bound. Um, you know, and believe me, I'm trying to get to all these people and say, hey, don't, you know, give it a shot. And see what you can do with it. It'd be great if we could have people of that order get involved in it.
Mhm.
Um, and see what happens. You know, what choices do they have? You know, accept to try it, and if it improved or helped them, that would be great. Um, and so I guess for me, it's at this point it's changed to being, you know, I can't be a philanthropist. I'm just a retired guy that, you know, an old database coder, uh, you know, and give it away. But I try to make it so that it works for people. And I've had some people call me and say, you know, my husband, I got it for my husband. He's taking it. But I just had surgery and I'm still taking care of him. I can't really afford it. I'm going to have to cut the subscription. I'm like, what can you afford?
Mhm.
You know, what can I do for you? You know, and we work out a number and I make sure that that person got it and she's
And
still
that's great.
getting it for her
You don't
husband
get you
because
not nobody that I know of does that.
no,
That's amazing.
you have to do that. You have to be human at some point, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you do. This is not about anything else. I mean, obviously I don't want the whole group calling me and telling me that,
Of
but
course not. No, I know that.
but you know, sometimes you just have to help people, and if I can help them keep getting it so that it can make her husband better, then whatever I need to do that, I'll try to do. I'll bend it as much as I can, and they just, I say, call me, and they do, and you know, it works, and and I don't know. It's part about having a heart too. I know what this is like. I've been through it. I've been at the level where it's so bad. I've hurt myself so many times that, you know, now I can jump on top of the ladder and clean the leaves out of the freaking, you know, house
Gutter.
gutter, you know, and not fall off. So I'm sort
It's
of
always a
amazed
start.
at all the things I can do that I couldn't do before, and with a lot of confidence, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see other people have that too. You know, that would be great. You know, if we could nip this with something simple and get it into care homes and things like that and really expand it, I think that'd be great. And I'd love to work with care homes that would say, hey, we'll buy, you know, we talk to all the patients, we talk to the people that are their caregivers, and 10% agree to give it a try. The only thing I want them to do is make sure they give it to them every day. Because if you don't
Yeah.
get, if you don't take it out of this jar, it doesn't do you any good.
How long does one jar last? Is it monthly or is it
It depends. If they're on 2X, they get 2 jars, and it would last 30 days.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. And we give a little scoop for them, you know, so they can scoop it out and everything like that. We do use a foam seal type. We don't put any type of top on here because that's hard for Parkinson's patients to get off. So we use a foam seal here,
Okay.
which reseals it completely. Okay, and this works better, we found, because it airtights it. Okay, so if they put it back on, it's airtight at that point. But these fit in priority small box shipment things, and we can get them out. Um, the labels are really small and hard to read, so we reprint them for people to read, you know, completely. And we put in there anything about that or any update we put in there also. So we try to stay in contact with our group. One of the doctors has actually said, "I'll be glad to be part of you know, Zoom meetings and
Oh,
set up some Zoom meetings with some of the people." He's actually volunteered for that.
that's great for
Um,
support too. That's fantastic.
yeah, yeah, no, no, it is, you know, and I've learned so much from everybody and their situations. I mean, even you today, you know, I
Appreciate that.
mean, it's the same thing. It's almost like everyone knows someone with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or dementia in some form or another.
Yeah.
And whether it's a relative or a friend or someone who's maybe not quite there anymore. Um, so to me, it's a huge audience, and what we'd love to do is, it'd be great to get in investors and things like that into us so we could grow further and faster and all that. But I will not sacrifice quality. If an investor comes in, I know investors can be, like, oh, well, can't we cut this or that out or whatever and make more profit? Not going to happen, buddy.
Good. Good. Stand your ground.
You're not. You're not an investor on my
Stand your
side.
ground.
I'll take my time building it and use my own money. I don't care.
I'm going to tell you honestly, as we're talking and as I'm hearing the story and everything that goes into this, I think I'm going to probably pick up the preventative formula, and
Okay.
especially since I've had in family some issues like this, and I don't know if I'm predisposed to it. I never went for any kind of test like that.
Well,
So
you don't really know, and if you do the test and you take it too early, it won't show a
right,
problem. So
yeah,
you'd have to take it, every couple of years or something to see if your scores change.
yeah.
I
But
think you had the test up there for a moment, what it looks like. It
oh yeah,
has like a
yeah.
red zone, a green zone, and all that kind of stuff
Where was that? That was under the journey.
under the journey. Yeah.
That's
And but yeah, no, it'd be great. And I'll say this too. In the book, we have a coupon code called eBook 10, and that's where the people have that PDF. And if they use the code eBook 10, it'll give them 10% off.
okay. Great. Is what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's the one. Yeah, looks like it. It's a little small on my screen, but it looks
Yeah,
like it.
it's hard. Let me see if I can.
So I'm not sure which one it is. There's two different tests up there. The original one I took as the sort of the mile, the beginning one, and then the milestone.
Yeah, this is the
Uh,
A beta 40 and A beta 42.
It's A beta 4240. I think it is.
Yeah, it's 42 and 40, and then
Yeah,
there's this one here.
yeah. That's the one at the bottom would be the October 13th one, the one I just took, which improved by 10%. Which
The hepatic function panel.
that's the function panel. Yeah, everything's in the green. That means the liver's not being affected by our product, which is important, and why I asked them to go ahead and do that test. Matter of fact, those scores are really good. That's the actual plant in the fruit right there. These are our test ones that we do test on, that we test grow.
The
That
fruit
one
was
was a test grow. That's what the fruit looks like. Now that is not the same species we use, because that species is really hard to get. But the plant in the middle is the species we use. And that's how it starts off. That was actually came from our supply. And again, we batch test to make sure we're getting seeds that are in fact ready to germinate. But once we mill them, you really have to use them within like a 3-month period. I think that's true of most type of milling things. You don't want to let it sit around.
all right.
So yeah, it's amazing, and I'm hoping that it sounds like you're joining in with us as a preventive, and the other people should be looking at the 2X if they have any family members that have it, and just follow our instructions we send with you, and use the ebook 10 to get 10% off, and follow my journey, stick with it, and we'll follow your journey. That's what I really want to do. I want to hear
Outstanding.
from everybody. That's important. The more we can tell and share with other people, the better it's going to get. And that's where we need to be.
Outstanding. So, Mark, where can we go to find out more information about you and everything? I know we have the website up here already, mybrainrestore.com.
Yeah.
Any social medias or anything you want to give out?
Well, yeah, there's a whole, the YouTube channel, which you can get to from the website. So if you go to My Brain Restore, you're pretty much going to have links to all our other sites. If you go there, there's a video at the beginning before I ran the Michael J. Fox Marathon where I'm talking about it. But right underneath it, it says see our other videos. That'll take you to our YouTube channel.
Great.
On our YouTube channel, you will see us down at the Alzheimer's Association. You will see us at Michael J. Fox groups. We go down there and party with those guys. I mean, the Alzheimer's group, a matter of fact, gave me all their cards to say, as you get better, let us know. We really want to know what's going on here. but it's a double-edged sword for them. And I don't mean to say this wrong to those groups, but obviously if this works and fixes it, what's their job tomorrow morning?
All right. That's a good point. Great point.
Yeah, it is a good point. So there's always a little bit of, I get this kind of a little pushback from them. I'm like, sorry, guys, we don't need that anymore. The research done, finished, we're ready to go.
Outstanding. Outstanding. All right, Mark, we're gonna start to wrap this thing up here tonight. So again,
Sure.
thank you, Mark, for so much for being here tonight. I really do appreciate it. This was very, very informative for me, and I'm sure the audience got it also. And I just you're doing great work, and I wish that my grandmother was still around, that
Yeah.
I would be able to at least get her something like this to try to help her out. And but for folks out there who do have family or does have family that's going through these things, this is something you really should check out. And
Right.
go to the website mybrainrestore.com, check it out, look over the products. I'm looking at it here. They're not crazy expensive,
No.
and and even if there was, it's worth it to save your family, to help your family. So
Well, yeah. Yeah, the alternatives are $100,000 stuff, and
exactly,
that's
exactly.
not necessarily going to work, so yeah.
Exactly right. So, all right. Well, Mark, thank you, and I'd love to have you back on the show again another time, and
Sure.
kind of see where we are, maybe a couple months down the road,
Yeah.
and just keep in touch and keep up to date with everything that's going on. And I'll let you know when I make the purchase, and I'll keep you updated on how it's working for me. And
Okay.
we'll get in touch. We'll stay in touch.
That's fine. We're glad to
All
have
right.
you, and glad to have your audience there too, and tell them you definitely use the ebook 10 code so they get 10% off, and that's 10% off the subscription for as long as you have your subscription.
Outstanding. That's fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Mark Burnett, thank you so much again for being with us tonight. You have a great night, sir. I'll be sending you an email a little bit after the show with some
Sure.
information, links, and such. So
Yeah.
we'll be in touch and in contact. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Burnett, thank you, sir. I appreciate
Thank you.
very much. God bless.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Great night. All right, folks. Mark Burnett, man, that was great. I really do wish that something like this was around, when my grandmother was still alive. This way we could at least try it and see what we can do for her. She, I miss her incredibly, and she was an amazing woman. And yeah, holidays are usually tough. Remember, folks, I lost my dad, my mom, my grandmother, all in a very, very close period of time within a year. And so the holidays, kind of just, freak me out a little bit right now. But anyway, that's another story another time. All right, folks. Pro HVAC R Solutions leverages over 30 years of experience in providing premier HVAC sales and service and repair work, specializing in both residential and commercial installations. Our Pro HVAC team of skilled technicians is dedicated to providing efficient heating, ventilation, and air conditioning solutions for your home or your business with a focus on quality workmanship and customer satisfaction. Pro HVAC services ensures your comfort all year round. Contact Pro HVAC R Solutions today for reliable HVAC services tailored to your needs. Website's up on the screen, prohvacsolutions.com. That's prohvacsolutions.com. All right, folks. Also, please don't forget to head over to our website, joerooz.com. It's joerooz.com. When you get over there, sign up for the programming announcements email list. There's a little pop-up that's going to come up on the homepage. When you get there, just fill that thing out. Get yourself on the mailing list. We don't sell your information. We don't share your information. It all stays here with us. And the best part of it, the mailing list is free. It means it doesn't cost you anything. All right, so get on the mailing list. Stay in the know, folks. All we're sending you is just information about programming, showtimes, guests, cancellations, which we hope never happens, reschedules, that happens a lot, but we can get all that information will be in the email list, and it's great to get it out to you that way. It's the easiest way to do it. I'm not going to send you like coffee cups and say, here, buy this for $80. No, I'm not going to do that to you. It's an email list just to let you know about updates to the show. All right, so get yourself on the email list. Stay in the know. It's very, very important. All right, folks, if you want to follow us on our socials, you can follow us over on Twix, Twitter, X, Twix. Follow us on Twix, Joe Rooz, Truth Social, Joe Rooz, Minds, great platform, Minds. Don't forget, Bill Ottman, CEO and co-founder of Minds.com, will be on the show on November 21st. Make sure you check it out. Great platform to be on. Check them out, minds.com. If you want to follow us on Facebook, you can do that too at Joe Rooz Show. Instagram is not Joe Rooz. Okay, so it's not Joe Rooz. TikTok, Joe.Rooz. Again, look, I don't really use the TikTok. All right, I just think there's something fundamentally wrong about a man using TikTok. I'm sorry. If you want to follow the show there, you can. I don't use it, but I'll get on there once in a while and just Joe.Rooz. And of course, we're back on Getter at Joe Rooz there as well. All right, shout outs to our executive producing team, Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Marissa Lee, and the inestimable Anonymous Angela. Thank you guys so very, very much for all the work that you put in for the show. Really do appreciate it. These folks donate their time, their talent, their treasure, the value for value model in action right there. So now if you want to help us out, you could do that very, very easily by signing up for it. You could go to our support page and hit that donation button. You can help us out by a one-time donation in any amount. You can do a recurring donation in any amount. Now, we really do appreciate the recurring donations because it gives us an idea of what we're working with every month to meet our expenses. So recurring donation in any amount, great. We appreciate that. But if you want to be an associate producer of this show, $17.76 a month. If you want to be a producer of the show, $18.36 a month. If you want to be an executive producer of the show, it's $25 a month or more. Now, all the producers get the same shout out on every show. They get included in all of our show notes. They get included in all of the emails, anything we send out from the show, because as producers of the show, your donation, your time, your talent, your treasure, help us produce all those things. That's why you're producers. Okay, so thank you very much for that. We really do appreciate it. Also, if you want to help us out with cryptos, you can easily connect your wallet and send over some cryptocurrencies. All of our wallet information is up on the support page as well. And like I mentioned at the start of the show, talking about folks that are using the modern podcast apps like Podcast Guru, Fountain.fm, Podverse, Pocket Casts, all those great apps. You can connect your crypto wallet to those apps and you can send us boosts of Satoshis or sats, which is a micropayment of Bitcoin. You can send that over to us with a little note saying how much you love or hate the show. And, we'll take all that into consideration. But it's a great way to help support the show. Let us know you're out there watching and listening. All right. So you can, if you want to try out the modern podcast apps, you can get them from your app store on your phone. Or if you want to go rogue, you can go to modernpodcastapps.com or podcastindex.org. All right, folks. I think that should just about do it for me and my voice. So we are going to say good night at this point. Thanks again for taking the time to be with us tonight. Thank you again to Mark Burnett for being with us. Head over to the website, joerooz.com. Leave us a message. Let us know what you think. And folks, don't forget, make Texas independent again. Go podcasting. Keep a steady stride. Keep talking. Good night, folks. We'll see you Wednesday.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together?
Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather.
Happy trails to you till we meet again. Some trails